Almost all of the companies in the IT field are using Agile philosophy or Agile approach. And one of the most famous Agile approach is Scrum. So in today's video, I'm going to explain Scrum a bit more, and we are going to see the composition of the Scrum team and the events of the Scrum, and finally the Scrum artifacts. So let's get started. Basically, Scrum is applying the philosophy of being agile, which means that requirements are updating constantly. Scrum applies the iterative life cycle and the incremental life cycle. Iterative means that the team, they decide a cycle in which they consistently deliver products, and that iteration is called sprint. That ranges from 1 week to 4 weeks. If the rate of change is high and risk is high, the team opts for a shorter sprint. But on the other hand, if the pace of changes is low, they can opt for a longer sprint. Incremental, on the other hand, is when you ship a workable product or workable features that adds up to the existing product. So at every sprint, there is an increment to the product. So this is mainly the foundation for Scrum, which is being iterative and incremental. Next is the composition of the team. The Scrum team should be under 10 members, and this team is composed of the Scrum Master, the Product Owner, and the Development team. The Scrum Master is the person who masters the Scrum framework, who is very knowledgeable of applying Scrum. And their responsibility differs from the responsibility of the traditional project manager by being a facilitator, a coach, and a servant leader rather than a controller or a situational leader in the case of traditional project manager. On the other hand, we have the product owner who represents the business, who represents the product, sometimes called the voice of customer. Development team, finally, is the persons who are going to undertake the work. Ideally, this team should be cross-functional, which means that they have all the skills in order to achieve the product. This team should be self-organized, which means that they do the work without upper control during the sprint. So once the sprint starts, this team should take responsibility in undertaking the work, monitoring their progress, and choose how they do the work without any external influence. The original name of the development team is because Scrum is widely applied in the software industry, but this name could exist in other industries as well, even if they are not developers themselves. Moving now to the events related to Scrum. First, before the starting of the sprint, we have the sprint planning, in which the Scrum team defines what they are going to work on during the sprint. And once this sprint starts, there is a daily stand-up in which the development team meet together and try to sync their work by sharing what they have done yesterday, what they are going to do today, and if they have any blockers. So this is the daily stand-up or the Scrum stand-up. And this event should be short, should not exceed 15 minutes in general. And by the end of the sprint, there is a sprint review meeting. And during this sprint, the development team demonstrate what they have developed so far, what they have produced, and the product owner and other stakeholders could give them feedback and approve or reject the developed product. And finally, after this event, there is a retrospective meeting. And during this meeting, the development team and the Scrum Master try to evaluate what they took place during the sprint, if they did good, what they did wrong, how they could improve in the future. So this is a process-centric event. These are the sprint events. Then after the retrospective, starting again with the planning, daily stand-ups, a review and retrospective, and so on at every sprint. In Scrum, we have three artifacts: the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and the increment. Product backlog is created or is the responsibility of the product owner, but anyone involved in the project could create a user story, but the product owner is the person who validate and prioritize these user stories. During the sprint planning, the Scrum team defines what they are going to work on during the next sprint. And the selected user stories that are going to be tackled during that sprint is called sprint backlog. So these user stories are called sprint backlog. And at the end of the sprint, when the development team worked on these user stories, they produced an increment, they produced some outputs which should be workable and should be functional to the end product. So this is the third artifact of the Scrum, which is called increment. Now we have the full picture of Scrum. Hoping that the Scrum framework is clear. If you have any questions, you can ask me in the comments, and see you in the next video. Bye.